for the offering, we're going to go to Psalm 34. So in Psalm 34, it is written in verse 6 that this poor man cried. David is writing, this poor man cried, and the Lord heard him, and he saved him out of all of his troubles. So the psalm was written in the time that he had to flee, he had to act insane so as to keep safe. It's a time in which he was chased completely out of the palace. Saul is hunting him, and it's a time in which he was poor, and the word there used for poor can also be translated into afflicted or humbled or even desperate. So all of that encompassed in that word. So I was humbled, and I'm desperate, and I'm poor. I need the Lord. I'm calling out to Him. I'm afflicted. So are you afflicted in finances? Then what happened to David? This poor man cried out, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. In verse 7, the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear Him. And then the fear of God, if you delve deeper, is connected to reverence and connected with worship. So if you think about it, when Jesus was tempted of the devil, he said, "You shall worship the Lord your God alone." But he was quoting from Deuteronomy. And in Deuteronomy it was written that you shall fear the Lord your God alone. So fear of the Lord goes hand in hand with reverence and worship for the Lord. It's about respecting Him. And of course, if we are going to be respecting God, we are going to listen to what He says, and we're going to obey what He says. But the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear the Lord. So in other words, now the angel of the Lord, that's Jesus. It's Jesus the way He has been portrayed in the Old Testament, if you go delve a little bit deeper. And so if there's an encampment around you, that means that you are in the center of the protection of God Himself, right at the center. So the angel of the Lord encamps, and each of them He delivers. Each of them He delivers. So what do you need deliverance from this morning? Perhaps financial pressure. And then the invitation comes here in the next verse, in verse 8. "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good." David is not expecting us to just take his word for it. God is not expecting us to just take His word for it, even though that would be a very beneficial thing to do. It's blessed are you if you believe, and even if you don't see. But there's an invitation to come and to see, to taste it, and to see that the Lord is good. And blessed, happy and fortunate and to be envied is the man who trusts and who takes refuge in Him. So there's a decision that we need to make. There's an invitation and there's a decision. It works like this. You've all walked past these tasting samplers, these food samples that you get in a shop. So there's an invitation. They've prepared something for you, and it's there, and you can access it. You can take some of it. You can taste it. You can sample what it is all about. But there's the invitation. Of course, that invitation is worth absolutely nothing if I don't actually use my hand and take it and taste it. So there is a way. There is a way, and we can become part of that way. But the invitation's there. It needs a decision on our part and an action on our part, a response. So the invitation and the response. He goes on to say, verse 9, "O fear the Lord, you His saints, revere and worship Him, for there is no want to those who truly revere and worship Him with godly fear." If we serve God, the want falls away completely. And so we lack nothing. There's no want. No want with that. He goes further and says, "The young lions lack food and they suffer hunger." Now a young lion has got incredible strength. A young lion doesn't have problems in hunting. I mean, usually if you think of a young male lion, he becomes such a threat to the pride that the young male lions are even expelled from the pride, but they survive. And they survive well because they've got this incredible strength. But even they suffer hunger. But they who seek, inquire, and require of the Lord, by authority of, well, let's just say, they who seek, inquire, and require of the Lord, none of them shall lack any beneficial thing. None of them shall lack any beneficial thing. He supplies in entirety. Sure. That means that all the time I need, all the energy I need, all the health I need, all the revelation I need, all the finances I need, every possible tool that you can think of that you need to serve Him, to live life and live life in abundance as Jesus has come to open up the way for, every beneficial thing. Every beneficial thing. But it's about seeking and inquiring of Him. So that means we've made the decision in our hearts. And now that I've made the decision in my heart, I take action. And I taste and I see that the Lord is good. I take action in this. We could also say that seeking and inquiring the Lord is to frequent Him or to follow Him, to seek, ask, and worship. So that's the way in which we seek and inquire the Lord. So we follow Him in what He's leading us into. We worship Him when we purposefully for who He is, for what He's done, and we frequent Him. It's not something that we do from time to time, but it's a relationship. And from that relationship and from the obedience in that relationship, then this comes out of that. Mm-hmm. All right. So they who seek the Lord, none of them shall lack any beneficial thing. You are fully stocked, like for a camping trip. It's basically all the supplies you need to go on a camping trip or a hiking trip. You've got food, you've got a first aid kit, you've got some entertainment, knives, you've got the direction, a compass, everything that you need to be on this hiking trip or then this journey of life, everything. You lack no beneficial thing. Most of the translations say you will lack no good thing. Now think of things that you would imagine are good things and think of not lacking them. But that goes with seeking and requiring of the Lord. And then it's very specifically underlined there, by right of their need. Now that one we're good with. We've become very, very good at seeking the Lord out of our necessity. And there is a right of necessity because He is your Father, you are His child. And so we have a right to go to the Father and to ask Him things. But there's a second part there, and that is on the authority of His word. Mm. It's about fearing Him, it's about revering Him, it's about worshipping Him, and that doesn't happen outside of the word that He has established. It doesn't happen outside of the way that He has established. But the invitation's there. And we could use that invitation, we could make a decision, we can go over to action, and we could be fully stocked, lacking nothing, lacking no good thing, no beneficial thing. So whatever you need for this journey to serve Him. But Jesus said this in Luke 11. He's talking to the Pharisees and he's rebuking them. He's saying, "Woe to you, Pharisees, for you tithe mint and rue and every little herb." Such was the detail that these Pharisees went into, that even garden herbs, if they had a gain from the garden herb, they would even tithe on that. So meticulous about the law, as we've come to know the Pharisees. Meticulous about the law. But God is saying here, but you disregard and you neglect justice and the love of God. But then He goes on and says, these you ought to have done without leaving the others undone. So these are more important matters in the kingdom. It's more important that there's justice, that you are in right standing with God, that you've accepted Jesus as your Savior. It's more important that you receive the love of God in that way. But He says, these you ought to have done without leaving the others undone. There's the way. And so Proverbs puts it this way, in Proverbs 11:24, there are those who generously scatter abroad. they generously give, and yet they increase more. Because there is a spiritual law on finances. God says if you give, you gain.
Yes.
God says if you die, you live. God says if you serve, you're the greatest. That's the way it works in the kingdom. And so there are those who scatter abroad and yet increase more. Think of all these philanthropists. A lot of their stories go along the lines of, I tried to give it away, but then the more I tried to give away, the more came to me. And they found that you can't outgive God. But then there are those who withhold more than is fitting, or what is justly due, and it results only in want. Now I remind you, when we were reading in Psalms, they were saying there's no one to those who truly revere and worship Him with godly fear. But then these oaks, they withhold more than what is fitting and what is justly due, but that results in want. And so that ought to show you that this is the way in which God did not set it up. And then the liberal person shall be enriched, and he who waters himself will be watered. So we are rivers.
Sure.
We are rivers. Resources flow through us as a blessing to others. And if we are in that flow, then things work the way that they're supposed to work. And then we can experience that we lack no beneficial thing. We lack nothing. Last verse that we're going to look at. Jesus said this in Luke 6:38. Give, and gifts will be given to you. Good measure, good gifts, lacking no beneficial thing. Pressed down. If you're pressing something down, you're making room for more. Shaken together, again, it's making room for more. Yes. And running over. That means it's filled to the brim. It's more than you bargained for. Will they pour into the pouch formed by the bosom of your robe and used as a bag? Note, there's a forming of a pouch there. That is the decision. That is our hearts deciding that we're going to react to the word of God. And that is us taking action. Yes, Lord, I'm bringing that pouch. I'm bringing that pouch by stepping into the way that He has ordained it. And then the following. For with the measure you deal out, with the measure you use, when you confer benefits on others, it will be measured back to you. So, I'm going to leave you with that. There is the invitation, and there is the action, the decision. But what it comes about is if we step into that flow, young lions go hungry, but those who step into that flow lack no beneficial thing.